On page 11, praise to Buddha Shakyamuni. Only the first verse.
Page 189 in the Green Book, the Retreat Prayer Book. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, know of the world, supreme guide of humans to be tamed, teacher of gods and of human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. The Heart Sutra, which is the page 192.
Hommage à l'ariat triple joyeux. Voici ce qu'une fois j'ai entendu. Le Bhagavan se trouvait à Ratchabaya sur le fils des vautours, entouré d'une grande congrégation de moines et d'une grande assemblée de bodhisattvas. À ce moment-là, le Bhagavan était absorbé en la concentration de catégories
profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokitesvara looked upon the very practice, the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokitesvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokitesvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form is also no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental, no consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint and nirvana. All the Buddhas who done the 3 times also manifestedly completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra, the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared.
Aussi le mantra de la perfection de la sagesse, le mantra de la grande connaissance, le mantra auquel rien n'est supérieur, douleur. Le mantra Yagala, le mantra qui apaise à jamais toute souffrance, doit être reconnu comme véridique car il ne trompe pas. Et voici le mantra de la perfection de la sagesse. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate
Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you've indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharivati Putra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised. That's praised by the Bhagavan.
Chanju pardo dani gyalo dangi chunyengi bezanamgi ndula benje zangi ndruba jo zangi chudan zangi chonam Chanju pardo dani gyalo je dangi chunyengi bezanamgi ndula benje zangi Shuzangye Judan Zugi Jonam Da Janju Bardo Dani Gyazu Dagi Sunam Gye Ndola Benje Zangi Juba Ju Oh yeah. 다 단대 트윈딜라다 셰바토스 제야지기 다 차시르스와 셰바 데시토스 제야지기 아닌 단 딘데인데 다 트윈기 베나 쇼게 라멘에 주시던 거를 아니 단에 가서르스나 아니 다 트윈데야디 나기 냠len다 된 차인데 아니 라멘에 주지 인지미지 고거리스 고 캐신 붙이고 거리스 된데인데 라멘에 주지 캐신 붙이 아니 다 대님도 아니지 가서 그래 다 다기 거래 나물라야 다 투물 남장기 쓰텔라 아니 연대식이 마주어레스 아니 아직 나기냠네 지기 여배 있나야 투물 남장기 삼보지 매나 야 지금 나기냠네 뼈다 붙여기 매바인데 그 투물 남장기 쓰텔라 연대식이 대시 두고 어레스 된데 디케치 무시 통고도스 다 디니기 나네 라멘넨 줄스야디 다 간딜라게마다 드레던 두고레 디 조 다치카소레 조 냠렌디 양라 됨바디 차디 버리스 조 냠렌디 셈도 초와기야디 양라 딩기 냠렌기 토네 아니 라멘넨 조기 다 대바장야디 계지 무차고 버리스 아니 라멘넨 조 대당 투물남장기 수기 단데디 인디시주마티니 드라와디 다 가소레 아니 지가소레 사람기 또바 귤라기야기 아니 지 디스베장기 미바체야 아니 람림기 또바 아니 지가소레 방제마기야기 아니 딘데 디스베장기 미바체제 다 태양 라멘네 주던 대구고요 베인데 아니 네도스체 다 지가소레 시다우지 도스팅고레스 라멘네 조당 라멘네 조테 지당 망냠네 임바인자 티촌에 라멘네 주지 계시면 차고서 니니 투물 남장기 쓰기던데 연내 시주만 되는데 연내 시주마다 데지 차인데 한 디스 비장기 미버 쳐야 되는데 라멘네 주대 대화시 차도 거레스 ko kasoreta jiji jula kema chingilo jiji chingilo yende chiji mena mangbo yorwa ta chingil laptang di ta lama setup che dukche setup che chigi yobe inde ko ente dewa chati gores ta dini ni lamen ne jo ta yende chiji ma tumu lamjan dini ni ta kasore shida masone dingores.
Today, and the practice that and the session that we're engaging in now, there will be a little bit more explanation. That's the plan, I guess. And so, therefore, considering this, if we reflect upon the session of this morning and we went through the practice of Guru Yoga, Ganden Lagyama. And so because we're engaging in a practice which is associated with the Tantras, a Guru Yoga practice becomes essential. And so together there is, in the process of self-generation, there is also a contemplation which is done on the gradual stages of the path to enlightenment by reciting the foundation of all good qualities. So the presentation of the path in this manner presents a common ground. So although one is engaging in the tantric practice, it is actually based upon this common path of practice which is presented within the foundation of all good qualities. And such reflection enables a purification and an accumulation of merit throughout this contemplation, because without such purification, the quality of one's practice, it becomes rather poor. So therefore, such a contemplation on the common aspects of the graduated path to enlightenment is very important. And so here we engaged in the practice of Guru Yoga, specifically Ganden Lagyama, and really the essential point here of this practice is focusing on the 7-limb prayer. So this ritual of Guru Yoga is based upon the 7-limb prayer, which is supposed to bring about a specific feeling, and sort of states of minds are to be generated throughout each one of these 7 limbs. And this provides an excellent basis to be able to train in cultivating of faith. The common path of purification, which is done on the basis upon the foundation of all the good qualities, enables an accumulation of merit, and as well is tightly connected with Guru Yoga, because there is a visualization of the teacher before us, and we are receiving the blessings from the teacher in order to be able to attain the realizations which are presented in each verse. And so in this sense, it is very much connected to the Lama, and we need this specific connection to our root Lama, specifically in the context of these tantric practice. Because, remember the verse at each ending of the verse of the foundation of all good quality, it mentions, please bless me, and so on. And it is by asking the Lama to grant the blessings to realize these stages of enlightenment.
Sur la base donc de cette pratique du Guru
In the actual practice, where there is the recitation of Vajrasattva, it is important to consider that the Vajrasattva deity is actually in nature our root teacher, and our root teacher is present in itself as manifesting in the form of Vajrasattva. And so throughout this practice, actually, one is considering that the root guru, Vajrasattva, and one's own mind is completely inseparable from each other, from one another. And so this engaging in the practice of Guru Yoga is really the purpose of this, is to generate a certain feeling in relation to our spiritual mentors in this manner. And it's a process of cultivation of a close feelingness, of a connectedness with our spiritual teacher. And throughout, also when one visualizes the field of merit, there is, one can imagine, for example, in the center of the field of merit, Lama Tsongkhapa, but although Lama Tsongkhapa appears before us, we imagine and we understand that he appears basically under the form of our spiritual mentor, which brings the story much more close and brings it much more closer to home for us. So this is very important, I think, that this process of the Guru Yoga becomes an excellent method to bring these ideas much more closer to the heart, and to really touch your heart by engaging in this practice, by personalizing basically the deities which are visualized before you, and remembering their nature as well as how they manifest. So manifesting in as your spiritual mentor. And so in the process of going through this common practice of purification in relation to the graduated path to enlightenment, which is done by reciting the foundation of all good qualities, it's possible that one's practice actually becomes self-involved and has, in a sense, a selfish motivation. And so by bringing to mind, when one is engaging in the Guru Yoga practice, the stages of the path to enlightenment, we're actually able to shift our mind to bear in mind, once again, others' well-being, and to accomplish others' well-being. So to shift the focus from a selfish one to an altruistic one on the basis of the contemplation, on the foundation of all good qualities. One can think about the practitioners, the solitary realizers, and the hearers and the solitary realizers, them too engage in a practice on the contemplation of emptiness. And it is possible that throughout this engagement in their practice, they develop an interest in the Tantra. And although they have an interest in the Tantra, they do not have cultivated the spirit of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and so in a sense they engage in a tantric practice, which is a belonging, one could say, to the Hinayana vehicle, as opposed to what we know of Tantra, which is necessarily associated with the spirit of enlightenment. And I'm saying this also in relation to, apparently in the past in Thailand they found, while doing different sort of excavations under the earth, they found dorjes and Vajras. So maybe we could even talk about sort of Yoginis from the Theravada tradition. So this practice of emptiness, which is lacking this dimension of bodhicitta, that might also be a possibility in the practice of Guru Yoga.
Mais je me dis que ces auditeurs, ces réalisateurs solitaires sont susceptibles aussi, donc avec leur approche, d'envisager la pratique tantrique.
So for Catholics, it might be a bit challenging for whether they realize emptiness or not, no?
Réalisons la vacuité, ça voilà, je réserve, c'était réserve. Je sais pas. J'ai le droit.
And so when we think about the hearers and the solitary realizers, actually within the context of Tantra, it is very well stated there in the different Tantras, in the 4 classes of Tantras, they are essential that there is the spirit of enlightenment. So lacking it would not be possible within the presentation of the Tantras. If we consider the Tantra from the within the Buddhist tradition, because there are also Tantras which are practiced in the Hindu tradition, so non-Buddhist tenets, it is also something to be considered. Within the Buddhist approach to Tantras, there are two questions which might arise. And the first one is in relation to why is emptiness necessary to engage in any kind of yoga, deity yoga practice? And the second is why is bodhicitta, the spirit of enlightenment, essential in order to be able to engage into these tantras? And so, in the context of Tantra, and if we consider maybe just the Mahayana as a whole, we have these two dimensions. And the first one is what we would call the causal vehicle, which is based upon the practice of the paramitas, the perfections, these practices of these qualities which bring us to the other side, literally, which are defined as the causal vehicle, which mean the practice of the perfections, which bring about, therefore, the resultant vehicle, which is known as the tantric vehicle. And so, because of this presentation of these two vehicles, of the causal and the resultant, it really shows a sequence in the practice. And the causal vehicle, which is associated with the perfections, has a heavy emphasis on the spirit of enlightenment. So this really shows how there is a necessity that the spirit of enlightenment precedes any type of engagement in any type of tantric practice. Within the Tantras, and here we could say specifically in the context of practicing Vajrasattva, we have these two visualizations which we do, right? The visualization of accomplishing one's own well-being and the well-being of other by these rays of light shining out and reabsorbing from the practitioner. And as we shine out and accomplish the well-being of all sentient beings have all their negativities purified, and they are established in the state of Vajrasattva themselves. And then there is a second sort of section of the visualization where the light shines back out again, making the offerings and so forth. And so in this sense, when we are touching sentient beings, we are actually, these rays of this visualization with these rays of light shining out is really a practice of conventional bodhicitta. And so this is very much present within the tantric practice. The second question in relation to why one needs emptiness in order to be able to engage in these practices, these deity yoga practices, is because we are searching and we are aiming to develop these two dimensions in our visualization process. And first one is developing what is called Buddha identity, sometimes also called a divine pride. And so, there is this necessity to have Buddha identity, as well as the second one is clear appearance. These are these true trainings which need to be reunited in one's practice of deity yoga. It is necessary because these two are necessary, and they're based upon one having faith in one's practice. And faith can only come about when ordinary appearances are purified. Ordinary appearances are purified by meditating upon emptiness. And so emptiness is really a prerequisite in order to be able to develop faith, upon which one is be able to cultivate Buddha identity and the clear appearance. So this again shows the essential component in tantric practice of having purifying out of emptiness ordinary appearances to then cultivate identity and clear appearance. It is also possible that this engaging in these deity yoga practices doesn't necessarily need to have a meditation or purification done with the view of emptiness, because we could think about Hindu practitioners which engage in deity yoga practice, and they do cultivate divine pride as well as clear appearance without doing this process of purifying ordinary appearance with emptiness. And so their sort of divine pride and clear appearance is itself based upon the power of their faith as well as their collections of merits. And so it is quite different in the Buddhist context, because there is this necessity to first engage in purifying ordinary appearances. And so therefore the whole practice, the whole tantric practice, needs to be associated or combined or conjoined with wisdom. So there must be quite a particular reason behind this.
Et ce faisant, on peut accéder donc à des niveaux de réalisation sensiblement avancés. Mais dans le contexte de la pratique bouddhiste, dans le tantra bouddhiste, la purification dans la vacuité est ce qui permet en fait de couper court aux apparences en fait ordinaires, au caractère ordinaire des apparences qui s'imposent à nous, et au fait d'adhérer en fait à ces apparences ordinaires. Et c'est dans ce contexte-là alors, que cette condition qui est faite de purifier en fait dans la vacuité, donc en l'occurrence d'apporter cette compréhension donc par la sagesse donc, de la vacuité, sert de condition en fait pour développer la confiance donc qui génère l'assurance divine et la claire apparence.
And so I think that maybe one of the reasons for why we draw upon the view of emptiness to purify ordinary appearances is to be able to develop this Buddha identity as well as this clear appearance. And I think by meditating upon emptiness beforehand, it is a way to engage in this practice in a much faster way as well as in a much deeper way. This is just my thoughts on the subject.
Apparence d'être la déité dans le contexte dans la pratique du contemplation.
Sabare se di chiso saba. Ani chiso kele de na ba was kele de na dongjan che di parje chi wa. Da di saba la di da di dongjan che je ai ni ju ko me di sabare se di da chongtamjin je se wa baですね. chongtamjin. 가사리카시나 동양 제가 이 바지 제거. 힌두 소도 다 빈두기 다 지요 켈레디 동양 제 바지 제거. 근데 이 그래서 너무 시시하지. 추가지 다음에 걔는 시시하지 않나. 안지 가서 이해로 동양 제거디 아니 당연히 나와 이자야게 다 좀. 주담지 땅에 걔는 계속 있나 아니 공정 체험이 담에 있는 것이 자기 답 사실이셔서 어떤 뜻을 내가 지난 체대가 주스
And so I mentioned that this method of meditating upon emptiness to purify ordinary appearance is deeper. And so in a way, what I've just said is not quite appropriate, because if one was holding a belief of there being some kind of either creator God or some kind of entity which was behind which would be like the cause of this universe, this kind of entity or this type of energy, then purifying everything into emptiness would kind of go against that. So in this sense, purifying with a view of emptiness here would serve as an obstacle within one's own personal practice. So I can only say that it's a deeper practice from the point of view of the Buddhists. Yeah? From the point of view of the Buddhists, emptiness is really considered the deepest way and the most efficient way to wear away and to challenge ordinary appearances. But you could not say this as a whole for all spiritual traditions.
En soi, il existe réellement. À partir de ce moment-là, il est impossible de purifier en fait, cela dans la vacuité. C'est complètement irrecevable parce que c'est dissous dans la vacuité. Donc c'est la raison pour laquelle je pense que cette pratique donc, qui consiste à cultiver, à dissoudre donc, les apparences ordinaires dans la vacuité est une pratique auquel finalement ne peuvent avoir recours que quiconque admet l'absence d'existence en soi, l'absence d'existence véritable donc, de tous les phénomènes, et de ce point de vue-là constitue en fait une approche beaucoup plus profonde, le suprême.
Mais 아니 더 좋디 답변은 둘을 샤샤베이나 제가 소리 나 대바르나 어디다 노티시셔스 나 대바르가 나한테 타이들이 막 이게요 말이 디코리스 나는 지금 나 데이터도 나와 이게 뭐 마세 나 타면만 나와요 이렇게 잘 이런 거 제가 소리 당분 주면 나기게 주나 나기 주마시게 주마 살나다 나기 주마시게 디제는 주마 많이 뵙게 되게 돈에 아니 림기 조심히 아이덴티티 재우기하면서 참 말해 스스로 아이덴티티로 이 탐의 아이덴티티 메로스의 divine identity this is 잘 말해 this is 가지고 줄 알았어. 말을 나의 가지고 있어 가지고 있는 근데 단단히 뭐이 나는 제일 단단한 저 셈을 잡아들이 나세 상대하기 나디 이게 나이 상대하기 이게 나레세 상대하기 sem rakwa na di na di something that you so di never say exactly di never say tatla ani tameng na shinchang ya ba ai ne joko sem rakwe da ma di na say sem rakwe kasure ma mu zi chang never say tapshi da ai ne
Mainly in the sutra tradition, there is a challenging, basically, of the conception of the I, and the I, which appears in an intrinsic manner, is considered and perceived as being a mistaken mind, a mistaken view. However, the I, which exists in the conventional sense, this conventional I is fine, is asserted, but the I existing in an inherent or an intrinsic manner is mistaken. In the Tantra, we have this dimension as well, the I, which exists in an intrinsic manner, which appears to exist in intrinsic manner, is mistaken, as well as ordinary appearances. Ordinary appearances are also mistaken, and so this is the extra layer which occurs in Tantra. And so through the practice of engaging in deity yoga, there's actually first the development and the cultivation of a Buddha identity and a clear appearance, which is done in an artificial, so it's something that you fabricate, which you build up. And then slowly by engaging in the practice, this actual Buddha identity and this clear appearance becomes something natural. It is something which you no longer contrive in that sense. And so really engaging in this tantric practice requires a shift in identity. We're shifting from our ordinary identity to what we could call a divine identity or a Buddha identity in that sense. And so the main kind of purpose of engaging in these tantric practices is to get rid of this identification with the gross mind, which is I, this belief that this is me. And so this purpose of the Tantra is to undo these conceptions and to purify ordinary appearances, this conception that we have, this is me, this over-identification or this perception that we have of oneself. In the process of self-generation, we meditate upon emptiness in order to be able to engage in this practice. And we use I as the basis of emptiness. We're no longer using any other type of phenomena. Specifically, we're using the I as the basis of the contemplation of emptiness. And in the traditional context of sutra teachings, there is this division which is presented of the I based upon the coarse, the 5 aggregates, and the I based upon the 5 subtle aggregates. And so there's a subtle level of I. Within the Tantra, there is no such division between the coarse and this subtle I. You can think the Tantra is really trying to challenge this general I that we believe in, which has and the I which actually exists is one which lacks any type of inherent existence, and there is nothing, and it's not an object which exists in any way from its own side. And so the meditations in the sutras regards the I and considers the I in 2 manners, like I said, in a coarse way. This I which is going from life to life, which has come from the past, which is in the present, which will move on to the next life. So there's an I which pervades all these lives. And then there's what we could call a temporary one, an instance of the I, which is referring to this specific life, this specific identity, or this specific I that we have throughout this specific life. And this is very unique in a sense to the sutra. In Tantras, there is no such differentiation of a coarse or a more subtle level of an I. We're really considering the I which pervades all lives and which pervades all dimensions of our lives in this sense. And it is very much this pervasive I which is being challenged throughout these practices of self-generation and meditating on the emptiness of the I. At the moment, we're engaging in the practice together as a group, but it is possible that when you engage on your practice on your own, that you notice a lack of stability in your own personal deity yoga practice. So, for example, unstable clear appearance or an unstable Buddha identity. And so when you notice this is probably indicating that you need to spend a little bit more time meditating upon emptiness. And so meditating on emptiness will help to increase the stability as well as developing a strong and single-pointed faith in relation to the deity, in the specific deity practice that you do. So to consider that there is no separation which exists between your specific deity and your teacher, your spiritual mentor. And so if you notice a weakness or a lack of stability within your practice, and specifically in relation to your clear appearance and Buddha identity, I recommend developing faith as well as meditating on emptiness, and you will notice an increase of the following.
Comme ne faisant qu'un finalement avec notre propre maître spirituel et notre propre esprit. Et donc c'est en s'appuyant ainsi sur ces 2 facteurs que sont la sagesse et la foi, la confiance, que l'on va pouvoir renforcer en fait notre capacité à nous manifester, nous percevoir en tant que la déité, donc cette claire apparence, et notre capacité de nous identifier en fait à la déité, donc cette assurance divine.
And when we engage and we take initiations or janang, and so there are these commitments often which are said. And what I would like to say is in relation to what I consider the commitment, or maybe more a necessity, is to purify with emptiness. So this would be what I would consider for you to do as a necessity. Maybe even jokingly, I could say that instead of saying you need to accumulate 100,000 of this mantra or that mantra, I would say, you need to accumulate 100,000 of these purifications into emptiness. And I think what I'm trying to get at here, although I'm joking, is to point at that within your daily practice, it is essential to have the practice of wisdom, that it's completely unsuitable, unacceptable in a sense to not conjoin your practice with the practice of wisdom. It's not something you need to spend hours on. There are very short practices and contemplations on emptiness, but it becomes really an essential ingredient. And obviously, when we use an ingredient, there are more or less kind of different grades in quality of that specific ingredient, but regardless of what grade it is, you can't do without it, and you really need to make sure it is part of your daily practice. And so in the morning, when we have our breakfast, we want to make sure that we have a healthy breakfast. So maybe we have a gluten-free breakfast, and so it's important that I think that to make sure that we get all the benefits, we reap all the benefits from a gluten-free diet. I really think that we need to purify into emptiness. I think if we don't do a purify into emptiness, then I don't know, regardless of how healthy your food might be, I'm dubious in relation to how much nutrition or how much benefit you will get from it. So, if we want to have a healthy diet, gluten-free, eat our fruits and have our oat milk and so forth, it's very important that we purify into emptiness and we have a contemplation on the lacking intrinsic existence. So we need to make sure that our diet is not just gluten-free, but free from intrinsic existence.
D'additionner en fait à son petit déjeuner fait de sans gluten, de fruits, de lait d'avoine, tout ce que vous voulez. On pourrait additionner, comme on a un sans gluten, on pourrait dire aussi un ingrédient qui serait sans existence réelle, en fait, ou sans existence véritable. Ça pourrait être un ingrédient, enfin, c'est un ingrédient nécessaire à ajouter à ce petit déjeuner.
So this morning, Jean-Luc brought me some breakfast, which was gluten-free, and I told him I'd like to have a slice of bread, please. I said, there's too much oat milk here, I need some bread. Yeah. If I come to France and I don't eat any bread, it would be a bit of a disappointment, no? I'd miss out big time.
가서 구양도 좀 해서 또 어디 되세요? 많이 생기, 담에 생기 구양도 생기 가서 셀프 생기 구양도 되게 이지 가서 셀프 아주 되게 고급 약을 시작했어요.
In relation to purifying into emptiness, what happens is that the mind becomes pacified and it becomes at ease and relaxed. You will notice that by engaging in purifying into the absence of intrinsic existence, the mind will become spacious, relaxed, clarity, and also it will be easy actually to shift your mind and it will become much more sort of malleable in the sense you'll be able to shift it in a much easier way.
C'est d'amener notre esprit à être beaucoup plus vaste, beaucoup plus spacieux, d'une part, et de l'autre côté, de le rendre beaucoup plus clair. Et foncièrement, cette purification dans la vacuité va permettre de développer beaucoup plus de qualité en fait, dans l'esprit.
When we engage in the self-generation, it's important that as a beginner that we cultivate a faith and a confidence in the sense of a belief on the lack of intrinsic existence of phenomena. And it's the lack of intrinsic characteristics to phenomena, to reality, is a faith and a contemplation you need to bring to mind. And it's something that you can actually contrive. And in a sense, it's very much fabricated in the beginning. And it's important that you develop that kind of view and that confidence in that mode of existence of phenomena. Although eventually it'll shift into something which is natural and not actually contrived or fabricated. In the sense of engaging in deity yoga practice, as well as a beginner, you will notice a lack of clarity and also, whether the deity's face or the hands or the implements, none of this is actually very clear. And so it's important that initially you don't actually try to achieve it all very clearly. You can just get a kind of general view of what that deity looks like. And slowly over time, actually, there will become more clarity, basically, in as regards the visualization. But initially, you don't need to go into great depth or be extensive about this. The initial stages are very much, in a sense, superficial, one could say. As I've mentioned previously, the engaging in the practice of deity yoga, the purpose is to become closer and closer to the deity. This means that the deity becomes closer and closer to your heart. And this is very important because the more actually you feel the proximity and the closeness between you and the deity, and you hold the deity closer to your heart, actually, this means that the ritual that you will do will actually have a great effect on you, but as well you will feel a great closeness throughout this practice. And it's actually explained in these tantric practices. You might have heard of this terminology of the four sort of limbs of the practice. So we have the nearing practice, then we have the nearing attainment, and then the attainment, and then the full accomplishment. So these different four stages which are presented within the tantric path are actually, what are they talking about, or what are they referring to, is this bringing closer, coming closer to the deity, which means it's bringing closer to your heart, really. And as usual, on a day-to-day basis, we notice that we become close to people and we have them close to our hearts, and this is infused with attachment. And so here, actually, our closeness to the deity is based upon faith. And you can understand quite easily how if you have the deity close to your heart, the visualization of the following will be very easy. And so this faith actually will strengthen that feeling and confidence in relation to the deity. And so essentially what I'm trying to get in here is that these visualizations shouldn't be something which are kind of far away and just kind of like a drawing up on the wall. I don't see what the point of that would be, but it's really a matter of, considering maybe a visualization is a little bit fuzzy, but slowly cultivating faith. And the more the faith is strengthened, the more the visualization will become clear, and the more the deity will become closer and closer to your own heart.
Apparence en fait de la déité finalement s'élève beaucoup plus naturellement.
The engagement of the practice of deity yoga actually is really to be understood as a build-up, yeah. And so when one goes through the sadhana, the kind of instruction manual basically of the deity yoga practice, Buddha identity and clear appearance is something which kind of builds up throughout the practice and becomes more and more powerful and stronger throughout. And it's also, we notice this feeling, the feeling and the power and the influence that it has over us is growing throughout the recitation and throughout going through the sadhana itself. It's not like switching on a light, you start the sadhana and you switch it on and you immediately have these things. So it's really kind of a momentum which is almost developed, we could say, throughout this gradual and sequential process of engaging in the sadhana. And we notice that the Buddha identity and the clear appearance become deeper, more stronger, more powerful, and are moving us more and more. And we notice that they become more stable and firm as well. And this is done through various stages, like, for example, you have the blessing of the body, speech, and mind, then receiving the initiation and the supplications and so forth. And throughout every one of these stages, we can notice that there is a strengthening and a growing of Buddha identity as well as clear appearances. So it's important to not understand that it's not like switching on the lights or that you kind of get there immediately. You go from zero to Buddha identity or clear appearance. It's a gradual sequence.
Cette assurance divine et cette claire apparence. C'est pas comme un interrupteur sur lequel on appuie et immédiatement la lumière arrive, en fait, la lumière d'un coup. Ça, c'est pas de cette manière-là que ça fonctionne. Le processus est progressif et permet donc à ce ressenti, en fait, ici, cette sensation d'être la vérité et de se percevoir en tant que tel, se renforce au fur et à mesure de la sadhana.
도시스의 공대기 그래서 내가 굉장히지만이나 제가 소를 굉장히 진행을 쇼게 넘어가고 굉장히 도시스의 단단한 같아서 굉장히 많이나 제가 소를 내외 같은다 예대내 부디니거든 사실 남산 쇼게 남산 내외 부디니 가사리 담에 요시로 마테리아 쇼시를 Vajra
in the relation to the specific Vajrasattva practice that we're doing. And so generally in these retreats like there are now, like we're doing at the moment, there are these 4 sessions. And in the morning, the session obviously involves a recitation and this 3-step visualization, which is when the nectar kind of flows down into you, either from top to bottom, filling you from bottom to top, and then the instantaneous one. So in the morning, I mean, it's obviously very personal and depends upon the individual, but it might be a bit challenging or kind of a bit intense to do that right from the get-go. So maybe what might be a little skillful or maybe helpful is simply doing this process of receiving the blessings and not kind of putting so much focus on going through these various steps of the being filled up from top to bottom, bottom to top, and instantaneous. And maybe it's something that you can introduce and kind of gain momentum throughout the day in the second, the third, and the fourth session. And so throughout these different sessions, you're kind of building up the visualization. It's not something that maybe this is not something you need to do immediately right from the get-go and force yourself to jump into it, and consider them really as a very gradual sequence. And it's very much a personal matter in that sense. And so there are some people which, if we go into great depth about this in relation to the purification, which is the color of the nectar can be 5 different colors, which is associated with the 5 different wisdoms, which can grant the 4 types of initiations. And so this is all kind of a very involved initiation, but I think that maybe it's not something which needs to be done right from the beginning, but you can build it up throughout the day. When we have time and we're engaging in these practices of Guru Yoga or deity yoga practice, the first step is to purify with emptiness, to conceive and to understand that all phenomena lack any type of intrinsic reality. And so this is done by purifying all appearances with emptiness. The second one is cultivating this faith, and this strong faith which was then shifted in the way that we generate ourselves as the deity, and then we engage in the actual practice. And also you can think throughout the sequence of the sadhana that one can also use opportunities to, for example, settle the mind and cultivate a single-pointed concentration, like when we visualize Vajrasattva on the crown of one's head. So it might also be useful if one has time throughout the practice to settle the mind and to use that as the basis of, or as an object for cultivation of calm abiding. I think that might also be of benefit. When we engage in the practice of Vajrasattva, or specifically we could talk about here Vajrasattva, and there's this point where you visualize the Vajra, which has this 5-pronged Vajra, which has the syllable hum at its center. And you can use this visualization, which is much smaller and much more subtle than the general image of Vajrasattva, to focus and settle your mind. So when you're engaging in these practices and visualizations, the initial step of visualization is very general, and as you become more and more familiar with it, what you can do is you kind of zoom in a sense, for example, to the syllable hum at the center of this 5-pronged Vajra, and you use this as a point to anchor your mind, to settle your mind. And so you notice that then your visualizations become more and more subtle over time. And I think that it will help if you're able to develop that stability in the mind by engaging in these practices.
Ici, on peut avoir la possibilité de focaliser notre esprit donc, de manière beaucoup plus fine, encore beaucoup plus puissante. Ce qui va quelque part, donc, dans un cas comme dans l'autre, ces deux pratiques donc, de développement du calme mental qui vont bénéficier en fait plus largement à notre pratique du yoga de la dignité.
And so the two essential components in this practice of deity yoga is this single-pointed faith as well as this clear wisdom. These are essential components in one's practice. And as for these inner qualities of mind, which are required in the tantric practice, so there's this very stable and clear faith that there is a wisdom which is lacking any type of doubt or any type of questioning. So it's a wisdom which is utterly certain. And then the third point, is this completely focused and channeled concentration. So these are the 3 points, which are inner sort of conditions which need to be reunited from within the mind when one is engaging in these practices. Stable faith, wisdom lacking any type of doubt, and single-pointed concentration. And as for developing and cultivating faith, there are many different methods you can engage in. But here, just to name some which seem important to me, is first of all, not falling under the control of any of discursive thoughts, basically not falling under the control of these different projections and being able to stand clear from these inner sort of monologues and dialogues and stories that we create about the external world. And secondly is also practicing the 7-limb prayer. So we'll leave it at this for now. So if you have any questions or any doubts that come up in relation to your practice, please don't hesitate to write them down, and we can. You have the opportunity to ask them. Now's the moment to ask all of these questions which you might have. So please write them down, and we can answer them throughout the week.
De façon très concrète, donc dans l'expérience concrète, qu'est-ce qui marche, qu'est-ce qui ne marche pas.
And so try to maintain your questions in relation to the points that I've covered today. So today was the development of this single-pointed faith, the development of this clear wisdom. I also mentioned this Buddha identity as well as clear appearance. So if you have any questions, I'll try my best to kind of answer these questions throughout the teaching. So I'll bear them in mind when I'm giving these explanations and try to address these different doubts which might come about.
Si vous avez des questions, ensuite à la suite de ça, posez-les par écrit, on les rassemblera et je les lirai. Ça ne veut pas dire que je prendrai chaque question texto pour les répondre à ces textos, mais je pourrai les incorporer ensuite donc, dans la suite de mes commentaires.
Because if you send an email later, you probably will not get an answer. So I'm very undisciplined when it comes to email, so you can kind of forget about it in that sense. So the Vajrasattva practice, and page 6, generation of the deity. All external and internal phenomena are illusory and like a dream. As a reflection of the moon appearing on a clear lake, samsara and nirvana have no inherent existence. The law of cause and effect and dependent arising are infallible. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud or a veil of a cataract. See conditioned things as such. I myself and all appearances become empty. Out of the void above the crown of my head appears the seed syllable Pam. From Pam appears a 8-petaled white lotus. In the center of which is the syllable A. Which transforms into a moon disk. In the center of which is a syllable hum. From whom appears a 5-pronged Vajra. In the center of which is the syllable hum. Rays of light shine out from the syllable hum. Come back. And transform the hum into Vajrasattva. Vajrasattva's body is white. He has one face and 2 arms. His legs are in the Vajra posture, and he holds a Vajra and a bell. At the crown of his head is an A, at his throat an A, at his heart hum. From the whom at his heart rays of light shine forth, inviting the wisdom deities.
Om Vajrasattva Argam Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Argam Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Pube Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Dube Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Aloke Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Nyude Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Nyude Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Shakta Pratisam Soa. Tsaum Bambo.
The wisdom beings of Vajrasattva become non-dual. Once more rays of light shine forth from the whom at the heart of Vajrasattva, inviting the empowering deities in front of me.
Dans l'espace devant moi. Om Vajrakola Saparivane Argam Padya Pube Dupe Aloke Gende Nyode Shakta Pratisam Soa.
I request the Tathagata to bestow the initiation. The initiation deities hold aloft the vows filled with wisdom nectar and bestow the empowerment.
Om Sarva Tathagata Vikekata Samaya Shide Om.
Vajrasattva's body is filled with wisdom nectar. Akshobhya becomes his crown ornament, and all the initiation deities dissolve into him.
Om Vajrasattva Argam Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Padyam Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Pube Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Dube Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Aloke Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Gende Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Nyude Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Shakta Pratisam Soa. Om Vajrasattva Ahom.
This ground anointed with perfumes, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Mirror, four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a bitter field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of my attachment, aversion and ignorance, friend, enemies and strangers, and my body, wealth and enjoyment, without any sense of loss, I offer this collection. Please accept it with pleasure and bless me with freedom from the three poisons.
Idam Guru Ratnamandarakam Niryatayami. Sur un disque de lune dans le cœur de Vajrasattva.
Merely thinking of just your name eradicates all obstacles and immediately purifies all negative karma. Thus, to you, unsurpassed Vajrasattva, I make prostrations.
Aussi je me prosterne devant vous, insurpassable Vajrasattva.
On the moon disk at the heart of Vajrasattva is a syllable hum, surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra. I request Bhagavad Vajrasattva to purify me and all sentient beings, my mothers, from all negative karmas and broken samayas.
De tous les karmas négatifs et engagements altérés ou brisés.
From the mantra, rays of light shine towards all beings, purifying all their negative karmas and non-virtues. The rays of light request the blessing of the mind of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions in the form of white rays of light and nectar. The white rays and nectar dissolve into the mantra rosary at the heart of Vajrasattva. The nectar flows down and fills my body, purifying all the broken samayas, the negative karmas, the non-virtues, and the obscurations.
Page 44, page 44. Om benza sattva samaya manupalaya benza sato janupatita trido me bhava sutokayo me bhava sutokayo me bhava anurakto me bhava sarvasiddhi me prayacha savakama suchame siddham sheyam guru ha 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 ho man sarvatata gata vajama me mucha bhava mahasamaya sadhu ampe Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenupatita tita me bhava sutokayo me bhava supokayo me bhava anurakto me bhava sarvasiddhi me prayacha savakama suchame Chidam Shiyam Kuru Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarvatata Gata Vajramami Mucha Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Ahumbe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Vinopatista Lido Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto me bhava sarvasiddhi me prayasa savakama suchame siddham shiyam kuru hum ha 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 om bhagavan sarvatata gata vajramami mucha vajrabhava mahasamaya sato ahum pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya.
Through the ignorance of not understanding, I have degenerated and transgressed my samayas. Please protect me, you, the main Vajra holder, whose essence is great compassion. To you, Vajrasattva, I go for refuge. Visualize that replying to our prayers, Vajrasattva says, O child of the lineage, your obscurations, non-virtues, damage, and broken pledges are completely purified. Saying these words, Vajrasattva on the crowns of our heads dissolves into us. Our body, speech, and mind, and the body, speech, and mind of Vajrasattva become inseparable.
Om Vajrasattva Kupe Vajitsanso. Om Vajrasattva Kupe Vajitsanso. Om Vajrasattva Anuke Vajitsanso. Om Vajrasattva Gende Vajitsanso. Om Vajrasattva Nyute Vajitsanso. Om Vajrasattva Shabda Vajitsanso.
Merely thinking of just your name eradicates all obstacles and immediately purifies all negative karma. Thus, to you, unsurpassed Vajrasattva, I make prostrations. Whatever wide virtues I have created, I dedicate as causes, enabling me to uphold the holy Dharma of scriptures and insight, and to fulfill without exception the prayers and the deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times. By the force of this merit, may I never be parted in all my lives of the 4 wheels of the Mahayana vehicle, and may I reach the end of the journey along the paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, the pure view, and the 2 stages of tantric practice. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The Song of the 4 Mindfulnesses, so it's a separate sheet of paper that you have. Upon a seat of the unchanging union of method and wisdom sits the gracious Guru, embodiment of all sources of refuge. A Buddha perfect in abandonment and realizations, right there. Abandoning all critical ideas, supplicate him or her with pure perception. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of devotion. Without losing mindfulness, just remain in a state of devotion. Within the prison of suffering in samsara, there is, without end, 6 classes of being wander, bereft of happiness. Your very own parents who nurtured you with such care, right there. Abandoning attachment and aversion, meditate on cherishing others and compassion. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of compassion. Without losing mindfulness, remain in a state of compassion. With the celestial palace of great bliss, delightful to experience, the divine body of your own pure aggregate and constituents abide, the Yidam deity in whom the 3 kayas are inseparable, right there. Without clinging to ordinariness, practice divine pride and vivid appearance. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of profound clarity. Without losing mindfulness, remain in a state of profound clarity.
Place-le dans cette profondeur et cette clarté, puis avec une attention sans faille, demeure dans cette profondeur et cette clarté.
The sky of the ultimate luminosity, the nature of phenomena, pervades the mandala of knowable things, whatever appears and exists. The way things actually abide beyond expression right there, abandoning mental fabrications, look into the essence of empty clarity. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of the Dharmadatta. Without losing mindfulness, remain in the state of Dharmadatta.
Puis avec une attention sans faille, demeure dans la réalité.
At the crossroad of the six collations of consciousness with all their various appearances, the haze of dualistic phenomena lacking basis or origin can be seen. A deceptive, illusory spectacle right there. Without thinking of it as real, look into the essence of emptiness. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of appearance and emptiness. Without losing mindfulness, remain in a state of appearance and emptiness.
On va faire maintenant les dédicaces.
So the dedication prayers in your retreat prayer book, which should be page 279 in the green covered book. Rinpoche, Make Pana Gyurchi, Kepanyam Pame Payam, Kone Kondu Pervasho, Nitawa Rinpoche, Make Pana Gyurchi, Kepanyam Pame Payam, Kone Kondu Pervasho.
La seconde prière de longue vie pour sa sainteté.
A long life prayer for His Holiness. This one you have it in the book. Page 323.
Une supplication pour le prompt retour de Lama Zopa Rinpoche.
So this one we don't have. This is a swift return for Lama Zopa, composed by His Holiness. I don't know why we have this one.
che she dan du be zin chin per wala na yang ni shu zo pe go cha chen zo me je tsu la ma se loi de pende ma le jo e go chi pu gyal we den dang ma gyo jo wa yi de la chi tu zhen ba ze pe mo lo shi wa she di yi re pa dans cho su gya su jin la tang gya se na ki tu ki la po che lo me den pe yang tu sa pe zo ke san du che per tu nyu she sho. Et on va réciter maintenant 21 fois le mantra du nom de Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana Shanti Sarva Siddhi. Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana Shanti Sarva Siddhi. Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana Santi Sarva Siddhi Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana Santi Sarva Siddhi Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana. Om A Guru Vajradhara Muni Shasana Santi Sarva Siddhi. Page 51, page 51. Oh, Gatsula Chekun Gijira Kigenun Tensi.
So the long life prayer for Yangsi Rinpoche. For the long life of all spiritual masters.